The vampire. Just saying the word brings up a really specific image, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Pale skin, coffin, the thirst. It's iconic.
Totally. And these figures, they stalk our nightmares, our stories, but their roots, they're tangled deep in actual folklore, especially from Eastern Europe.
And that's where it gets really compelling, I think.
Yeah.
When those old folk beliefs bump up against real, sometimes pretty disturbing events.
Exactly. That's where the legends really seem to, take hold. Blurs the line between myth and history. And that's exactly the ground we're covering today. We're doing a deep dive into this really fascinating, kind of gruesome case from 18th century Serbia.
Petar Blagojevic.
That's the one. The story of Petar Blagojevic from Kisiljevo village, often called, chillingly, the vampire of Kisiljevo.
Right.
So our mission today is to kind of unpack this historical mystery, look at what actually happened or what was reported, and explore explanations maybe beyond, the supernatural.
And we're mainly drawing from that detailed article on historic mysteries, which gives us a really good window into how people back then saw the world.
Yeah, it's a great source for this. It shows how, the supernatural wasn't just fantasy. It was a real way they interpreted things.
Definitely. And when a bunch of strange tragedies happened, well, you can see how quickly they might jump to a terrifying supernatural cause.
Okay, so let's start with the man himself. Petar Blagojevic, born 1662, Serbian peasant, lived in what's now Kisiljevo.
Yeah, pretty ordinary life, by all accounts.
Totally unremarkable until he died in 1725. And the cause. The article just says, unknown.
But it's what happens after he's buried that kicks off the whole thing.
Right, it gets really alarming really fast. Within just 8 days of his death, 9 people in that small village die.
9 people. And the pattern was apparently the scary part. They'd get sick suddenly, dead within 24 hours.
Super quick. And here's the chilling connection, the thing that must have spread panic like wildfire.
Thought they all said.
Exactly. Every single one of these dying people supposedly claimed the same thing.
The Blagojevic attacked them.
Yeah, that they were throttled by the recently buried Petar Blagojevic. You can just, imagine the absolute dread in that village.
It's such a primal fear, isn't it? The dead coming back to harm the living.
Uh-huh. And then there's this story from his widow. Adds another layer of, creepy detail.
Right. She claimed he visited her at night.
Yeah, demanding his opanchi. Those are, traditional shoes. She was so scared, apparently, she just fled the village.
Can't blame her, really.
And the stories just kept escalating, getting worse, more gruesome.
There's that other account, isn't there? About his son.
Oh, yeah. That one's particularly nasty. Allegedly, Petar came back, demanded food from his son.
And when the son refused?
The story goes, the father attacked him, bit him, drank his blood. Just horrible.
Wow. I mean, these tales really show the panic spiraling, don't they? Sudden deaths, the dying blaming the same person.
Yeah, in that context, with their existing beliefs.
The vampire idea wouldn't seem crazy. It would seem like the terrifyingly logical answer.
So, gripped by this intense fear, the villagers decide they have to act. Immediately.
Their solution? Dig him up.
Yep. Exhume the body, look for the signs. The things they believed proved someone was a vampire.
Like hair still growing, nails, no decay. Those classic markers from folklore.
And they didn't do this secretly. They demanded officials be there.
Right. The article mentions the local administrator, this Cameral provisor Frumbald, and the priest. They wanted witnesses.
Now, Frumbald, he wasn't exactly jumping at the chance, was he?
No. He initially resisted. Said he needed permission, from Belgrade, the higher-ups.
It's like this clash, isn't it? Bureaucracy versus sheer terror.
Totally. But the villagers felt they couldn't wait. They were panicked.
The article mentions they had these local stories, these legends.
Yeah, about whole villages being wiped out by vampires under Ottoman rule. That context makes their fear seem very real, very urgent.
So, faced with the possibility of riots or everyone just abandoning the village?
Frumbald caves. He agrees to be there. Reluctantly.
And thankfully for us, looking back, he wrote it all down.
His report, yeah. That's our main historical source for what happened next.
And according to Frumbald's report, what he saw was pretty disturbing. To him, at least.
He reported the body looked, undecomposed. Hair and beard seemed longer.
Okay.
And there was blood in and around the mouth. And he mentioned skin and nails looking like they'd regrown.
Whoa. Okay, pause there. We have to remember, right? Burial practices back then.
Oh, absolutely crucial context. Graves were often incredibly shallow, sometimes just a couple of feet deep.
Yeah, or mass graves, bodies just in shrouds.
So things like floods, rain, even animals, they could easily unearth a body.
And if a body was unearthed and hadn't decomposed much yet, maybe due to soil conditions or something,
It would look unnervingly fresh, maybe bloated from gases, fluids leaking that look like blood.
and that fits right into the old Slavic folklore, the vampire, the undecayed revenant.
Exactly. It feeds directly into those existing fears. An unearthed body looking wrong wasn't necessarily supernatural, but it sure looked like it fit the description.
So back to Frombald and the villagers. They see this body looking like that.
You can imagine, for the terrified villagers, that was it. Proof positive.
Cemented their conviction, and that's when they decided.
Stake him through the heart.
Did Frombald try to stop them?
Apparently not actively. The article suggests he was still skeptical, maybe, but he kind of went along with the crowd's intense demand. He let it happen.
And the description of the staking itself is, well, graphic.
Yeah, Frombald reported that when they drove the stake in, fresh blood spewed from Blagojevic's ears and mouth.
Oh man, that would seal the deal for anyone watching, wouldn't it? The ultimate horrifying confirmation.
Absolutely. And just to be sure,
They burned the body afterwards, cremated the remains, make absolutely certain he wasn't coming back again.
a really stark, violent end speaks volumes about the level of fear.
So Frombald writes up his report,
Detailing everything he saw, or thought he saw.
and he basically says, "Don't blame me, I just watched the villagers do this."
Pretty much. He requested he not be held responsible. And interestingly, the authorities in Belgrade, they didn't seem too bothered.
Maybe just glad the situation was resolved, however brutally.
Could be. A staked, burned body might have seemed like a small price for peace in a remote village.
So this all happened in this one village, Kisiljevo. But Frombald's report, it didn't stay local.
No, this is where it gets really significant for the sort of history of vampires. His account got published.
In a Viennese newspaper, the Wienerisches Diarium.
Right, and from Vienna, the story just exploded across Europe. Germany, France, even England.
So this one incident, documented by this one official.
It became one of the earliest, maybe the earliest, widely circulated, seemingly official testimonies of these vampire beliefs. It poured fuel on the fire of what became the big 18th century vampire craze.
Wow. So this obscure event had huge cultural ripples.
Definitely played a part in shaping that whole fascination, that obsession.
Okay, so we have the story, the report, the spread. But now let's really dig into the reality behind the legend part. Was it really a vampire?
Well, probably not. The article does a good job laying out the potential natural explanations.
We touched on the shallow graves already, the ease of bodies being disturbed.
Right. And the appearance of those bodies. Undecomposed doesn't mean undead. Lots of environmental factors affect decay.
What about the specific vampire signs Frombald reported? The hair, the nails, the blood?
Modern science has pretty mundane explanations for those. Skin retracts after death as it dries out.
So it pulls back from the hair follicles and the nail beds?
Exactly. Making hair and nails look longer even though they haven't actually grown.
Okay, that makes sense. And the blood?
Decomposition produces internal gases. That pressure can force bodily fluids, often reddish and decomposed, out of orifices like the mouth or nose.
So it might look like fresh blood, especially to someone expecting to see it.
Precisely. And bloating from those same gases could make a corpse look plump or well-fed.
And what about the initial deaths? Those 9 people dying so quickly.
That sounds much more like an outbreak of some kind of communicable disease, doesn't it? Something poorly understood back then, maybe spreading rapidly through the small community. Anthrax has been suggested, possibly contaminated food or water. Lots of possibilities that aren't supernatural.
Which would also explain people dying quickly with perhaps similar alarming symptoms.
Exactly. In a time before germ theory, attributing it to a supernatural cause, like a neighbor returned from the dead, makes a certain kind of terrified sense.
And then there's Frombald himself. How reliable is his account?
That's a huge question. Was he just objectively reporting? Or was his perception colored by the intense fear around him, the prevailing superstitions?
Could he have maybe subconsciously seen what everyone expected to see? Or even, embellished things a bit in his report to justify letting the staking happen?
It's possible. He was in a really tough spot. Maybe describing extreme signs made the villager's actions seem more understandable, protecting himself politically. We can't know for sure.
So his report is invaluable, but we have to read it critically, considering the context.
Absolutely. It's a historical document, shaped by its time and the pressures on the person writing it.
So wrapping up, this whole story of Petar Blagojevic, it's more than just a spooky tale.
Oh yeah. It really reflects the bigger picture of the 18th century. Fear of the unknown, disease, social upheaval. It's all woven in there.
You can see it as a cautionary tale about mass hysteria, maybe. Or just a window into how powerful belief can be.
Both, I think. That's why it still fascinates us, right? That line between myth and reality, fear and fact.
It really does. This one story from this tiny village ends up echoing through centuries of vampire lore.
A potent reminder of how fear and a lack of understanding can shape not just beliefs, but actions, sometimes violent actions.
So just to recap quickly, we covered the bizarre events in Kisiljevo after Blagojevic's death, the villagers' fear leading to the exhumation and staking.
From Bald's report documenting it, how that spread the story across Europe.
And then the likely natural explanations, burial practices, decomposition quirks, possible disease that probably underlie the whole legend.
Yeah, pretty much covers it.
It really makes you wonder, though, even today, with all our science, when something truly inexplicable happens, something we don't understand, what kinds of monsters might we invent to explain it? How will future generations look back on our interpretations of things we can't yet grasp?
That is a fascinating thought. It really speaks to that enduring human need to find patterns, to find explanations, especially when faced with fear or the unknown. Our monsters might change shape, but maybe that fundamental impulse remains.
Absolutely. That line between belief and reality, it seems like it's always going to be a bit blurry.
Seems that way.
Well, thanks so much for digging into this really compelling piece of history with me.
My pleasure. It's a classic for a reason.
And to you, our listener, we hope you found this as intriguing as we did. Keep exploring these fascinating corners of the past.